So this affects a very small amount of the population. Why would President Trump want to get rid of this tax then?
I think it goes against what Trump really stands for, because you just said it's a tax on the rich, but it's also a tax on people who have been successful. So it's a penalty for your success during your lifetime. Also, income tax has already been paid on those assets. So as someone who's successful going through life, they're paying their taxes as they go, and whatever's left is what they're accumulating that's going to be subject to tax once again. On top of that, the estate tax, when you look at the big picture of tax revenues that come into the federal government, the death tax only represents about 1% of that. So it's actually not material in the grand picture. And then there's another aspect too. It's somewhat unfair because wealthy people have the resources to be able to hire people, tax attorneys and CPAs, to do planning, extensive planning, sometimes complex planning, in order to eliminate or get rid of the impact of the death tax. There's another point too to be made here. Sometimes when people are accumulating wealth over their lifetime, we just think in our heads, well, it's liquid, right? It's cash, it's in stock. What happens when someone's assets are non-liquid? So when the death tax kicks in, you have a situation where people who've been successful, then after their passing, their families are forced to sell off their assets in order to pay the estate tax. Now, that could be devastating because if someone is that wealthy, it's known they're wealthy. Generally, they know they have an estate tax problem. So now those assets effectively end up in somewhat of a fire sale. So now you have a reduction of the value of those assets when you're trying to raise money to pay the tax. Now, there's another side of the coin here as it pertains to Donald Trump, and that's appearance. And you and I have talked about that conflict of interest issue related to Donald Trump. So Donald Trump ultimately eliminates the death tax. Who's an extraordinary beneficiary of that? Donald Trump's family. If Donald Trump is truly worth $9 or $10 billion, or let's assume that's what he's worth at the time of his demise, without any planning, Donald Trump's family would be paying multi-billion dollars in death taxes. And let's think about where Donald Trump's assets are. They're in real estate. I'm not saying Donald Trump doesn't have a lot of cash, but Donald Trump does not have billions in cash. So in his scenario, he would have to, or his estate would have to, sell off buildings in order to raise the cash to be able to pay the tax. And I believe conceptually, Donald Trump believes that's just not right.